Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? You're going to see yourself back, and
I
then
can see me, I just can't see you.
no, that's because I need you to see when I put the PowerPoint on.
Okay.
Okay.
Picture of me when I started my Facebook and Google.
Really got something amazing going in there. Okay. For the purposes of this, you're Christopher, yeah, or Chris.
My name is Christopher Bertolino.
Okay, that's fine. This is Basis 54. It's a targeted individual series. Do you want to be called a targeted individual? That
You can call me that. I would say that I am that at the least. I would also refer to myself as a military abductee, human experimentation project.
Okay. Well, let's start. Well, good morning, Christopher.
Good morning.
It's you're in the United States, and I'm in Wiltshire, and you've sent some absolutely remarkable scans and images, which we have on a PowerPoint presentation, which I'll put up during the course of the discussion, and you'll be able to see that where you are, and hopefully, if I put something up in the wrong order, you can explain that. But initially, what's your basic story? What's happened? Because this is secret space program stuff. This is heavy stuff.
It's a multi generational curse. I've been going through this since birth. Um, I know that I kind of showed the little spot on my head right there when I was 2 years old. First implantation I got was stabbed into my forehead. Uh, an RFID so I could be targeted by directed energy, cellular, satellite, network energy just broadcasted to my head. And as I grew, I became a neuromodulation experiment, and various systems of neuromodulation went into my head and worked their way down all throughout my torso, in my spine, central nervous system, sacral nervous system, uh, all my organ systems. They've all been tapped with electrode wires connected to battery pulse generators, and my bodily and mental functions are controlled, recorded, altered by false information, tormented. Um, I'm just a data extraction project. I mean, I've been through a lot of things. I've fought a war to try to get those imagings. It's like taken a lot of my life, going to doctors, trying to say anything other than I've got implants, take them out so I don't get locked away in a mental health
Well,
facility. But I have
how does that actually work? Because one of the things is that people do go to the doctor, trusting them, and then the
exact
doctor sort of says "loopy loo land," and they take you away to the funny farm. What happened with you? How
how
did you
that
get
works.
through that?
Well, I I I discovered the wires in my head, and I was trying to get imagings for the ones in my torso, and I had the surgical scars on my torso where I'd been cut and implanted, and I did try to tell doctors, on numerous occasions that, look, I know these things are inside me. They immediately moved to get you to seek psychiatric help, take psychiatric medications, antidepressants. They overwhelm you with drugs. Like they try to put me on like the rotten. What happened? They were messing with like my heart, and I was having a lot of problems with what was going on inside me from the experiments, from the neuromodulation. I also had some problems with nanotechnology piercing like through my brain to grab onto my individual brain neurons, and I just kept going to the hospital trying to find these things, and I would find them. I would find like, the wire in the picture, or the lump in my back or torso, and I would sometimes even show the pictures to the doctors. What eventually happened is they came for me where I was living at the motel. The motel opened up the door and they took me into the mental health institution. And I was there for 3 months being destroyed on the drugs when, I was aware that I was a targeted individual, that I was being stalked, that anytime I would go out in public, story of my life, I didn't realize it most of my life that my cell phone was being used to track me, like my whole life. Anytime I sit down somewhere for 20 minutes, weird people come up and say dumb stuff to me, and then there's usually
What sort of dumb stuff?
Well, since the stalkers are police, it tends to be some, weirdo, druggy people that are wearing wires in their shirt, trying to get me to want drugs, buy drugs, use drugs, is usually the way they go about it. But just people come up to you and ask you all sorts of questions. Some of them you can tell are the kind of people that look like government employees. And
Now, how do you
they
know
ask,
that? What does a government undercover employee look like?
well, typically they look like well-built steroid freaks that, have a tendency of dressing in a certain way. They like to hang things on their belt a lot, like their phone or their keys or whatever. They clip stuff on their belt. They wear black shoes that look like cop shoes, belts that look like uniform, and they just look like a steroids freak, and they come up to you and they ask you, personal things about your life, like they're investigating you. The other side of that is I'll be out eating somewhere and they don't come up to me per se, that I'm sitting at Taco Bell and I'm having myself a gordita crunch wrap or whatever, and I see this guy comes in and he flips his wallet, and he says, this, that, and the other about me. I'm a crazy person. I'm a despicable this or that. If it's a store that I'm shopping in, they better watch me, that I'm a potential shoplifter. It's anything at all that, kind of specified to the situation that could make people not like you. Encouragement, like, if you have any problems with this guy, give us a call, let us know, sort of thing. She wants to be a star of the show here.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, let her be the star of the show. She's great. Your pussycats are allowed in. If they're good enough for Simon Parks, they're good enough for us, right?
Well, she hears the voice coming out of the speaker, and she wants to investigate it.
Oh, that's right. We'll get onto your PowerPoint later. We'll just really find out who you are for now. Yeah. What's the history of your members of the family who have been through this? Can you go over their history, which will lead up to yours?
Well, the little bit that I do know about my forefathers, because they gave me to my mother and stepfather that would hurt me and made me spend my whole childhood in a government institution. But what I can clearly understand, you know, that they kept my family hidden, they kept my money hidden, they wouldn't let me make any contact, and they kept me in a government institution my whole life until I was 18, calling me a bad kid because my mother would torture me and help them give me implants and stuff like that. She was a surgical nurse, and now she's a regular nurse ratchet working in mental health, helping to kill people like her son that she made this way, and everyone else that the
That's a very
government is.
strong statement. I mean, could you justify that? Why is that such a thing that's so disturbing for you?
Well, my grandfather was Army Signal Corps on my mother's side. My mother became a child surgical nurse, and wouldn't you know, I became an implanted lab animal that had to be discredited, dehumanized, stalked, locked up with the assistance of my mother, making criminal charges. My mother would do some pretty abusive things to me. I don't know how much in depth you would like me to get into that, but she would do what she did, and she would assault me and attack me. And after my stepfather left, I would be locked out of the house. After I was chased out of the house, I mean, my mother never did so much as like buy me anything but like 3 shirts, like my whole life, and I mean that literally. And they were triple X shirts that I could, wear like dresses my whole life. And I mean, she made me a homeless kid, and she filed various charges on me, and she never stopped. I would be somewhere living my life, working for a living, and find out that my mother had made a charge about something, trespassing, or it was, criminal damage. Like I would have stuff in her house. She would throw it on the floor and break it. She'd assault me. She'd put in this report to the police, and I would come out with all this domestic violence, criminal damage charges on my name. And I mean, she's stolen and sold everything that she could from me. Like, never once did I have a loving parent or a strong foundation where I could go to school and build my life upon. I was thrown to the wolves in the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, to, you know, be amongst Mexican mafia, Bloods and Crips, and essentially just be like some white boy that they blame for, manifest destiny and slavery and every other thing that, they attached to me, and wanted to like kill me for.
Okay. Well, I
That
mean,
is.
you've gone through things there. Do you want to get on to some of the pictures that that you've sent me? And do you want to discuss that, or do you want to continue getting a background?
Well, I mean, you're making the show here, so I mean,
Okay.
I could
Well,
go on and on and on about
yeah.
my
Okay. Well, we've.
childhood.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put the. Okay, there is a TR3B.
Indeed.
Uh, what connection does that have with yourself? By the way, I hope I've actually managed to get these in a sort of an order which is going to work. But the TR3B, I think, was one of the first you sent. So that's what what do you associate with that?
I associate with the teleportation and most literally time travel. As far out as that is, for most people to accept. Ever since I was like a little boy, I've been taken, and I've known that I've been taken. they mess with your head. They like swipe your memory, but when you've been returned from an abduction, you know things have been done to you. Like there was the time when I was 2, and I remember being taken when I got the chip in my forehead, and then a few years later I noticed the scars on my rib cage. Um, Not long after that, I was on a playground when I was taken, and my male reproductive system was cut into and wired and implanted. The very first time that I remembered seeing, I was in Mission, Texas, and I saw that craft, and I happened to be in the backyard when it came for me, looking up in the sky
Now,
upward.
just so people understand, the TR3B is one of our technologies. It may have extremely advanced technology, but the people flying it are us humans. Is that right?
I understand that it's a military program that is, that they kind of shift all the blame onto this alien UFO conspiracy, but I understand that the military is very well equipped, and if there was like any extraterrestrial here unauthorized, I'm pretty sure that's how we got the Roswell incident. I'm sure it would be shot down or shot in space or something. But
Have you been with James Rink by any chance? Have you
no.
spoke to him? Okay, no. But so, okay, this picture of the TR3B, that's been featured on the X Files, all sorts of things. Where did you get that picture? Is it? It's obviously a graphic compiled by somebody, but do you know anything more about where the picture came from? Or
Well, that's an illustration, but there are other pictures of actual sightings that people have recorded online. I mean, if I had a good video camera, like I could go out there and stare at the stars long enough, you'll see things that the average person will write off as a shooting star. Except shooting stars don't come to you know they don't hit the brakes. They fall out of the sky, they stop, they hoover, they conduct their abduction, they jet off, they go up, down, left, right, all over the place. Like, and sometimes you'll see more than one of them, and they'll like meet, come together, coordinate, and shoot off one direction, the other one the other direction. I mean, it's just a matter of looking up at the night sky in a dark place, and I mean,
yeah, I
these
mean
craft.
we've got some graphics to illustrate your point here. I think there's actual video there on the top right,
Yeah.
and it's the I think that black one may be it's an Aurora. It looks like the old Aurora. No.
Well, some of this, I mean, you can find some extent patents for the technology for, it's like anti-gravity technology, electromagnetic field levitation, runs off of like a mercury motor. I mean, you could talk
Now,
to
what do you call
people
a
like,
mercury motor? That's sort of like very like the Nazi bell.
well, it's like the mercury is used to create the electromagnetic field levitation inside those little circular cylinders. I mean, you can find like patented technology for that, and that's kind of like what that's about. But there's a little bit more like to it, like the back thrust, and I mean, I only ever see it, shooting around the sky, and like the times that I've seen it come for me up close, that I just happen to be outside at the right time. Um, where I live at now, it like there was this time I was walking back in the dark, and it was like just kind of streaking. It can have like a bluish white looking light, or it'll look like straight bright white, like if it's came to a stop, like it hits the brakes, and it'll just be like straight bright white, or it can take on a sort of orangish amber kind of look to it. Just the propulsion, depending on how they're running it. Like I've seen it do all of that, and I saw it like trail me, following me as I was like walking back to my house one evening from, just being out at the store, going to the gym, working out, stuff like that.
I mean, some of the pictures and some of the scans you've given are from 1985, I gather. So how long has this been going? I mean, 85,
No,
the TR3B. Sorry.
I mean, I was born into this. The scans don't go back that far. The imaging that shows the wires in my head, that imaging came from 2009. There was one in 2003 I tried to get, but they wouldn't let me get it. I mean, they can do a lot to your mind to make you forget and not think of like what's going on, and make you think some crazy spiritual stuff is going on. Like, I would never cut my hair higher than like a medium fade, for like most of my life. Cause, when I finally like shaved my head, I, found all these cut marks on the top of my head. I mean,
Well, we'll get onto that. We'll get onto I think the next thing is the Air Force Space Command. What do you have to say about that? Is that an actual patch? Is that an actual photograph of a uniform patch and somebody's?
I suppose it is that. I think the Space Command was, started up around the time the Star Trek series came out, the original one.
I mean, President Trump has obviously brought in his own Space Command. I think it's just called the United States Space Command. There's the Navy, and then there's 2 or 3 Space Commands, aren't there?
Well, there is a new official one that he announced. The Space Force is what he called it.
All right.
And
well, that's the Air Force Space Command, as opposed. So the new one would be the Space Force.
The Air Force Space Command is NATO, and now there's a Space Force. And Air Force Space Command is the one that is depicted on Stargate. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but yeah, that was Air Force Space Command. But it just looks like the little TR3B craft to me. Like they use the little Star Trek.
How big is a TR3B? When you say little, 2 meters.
I'd say that it's the size of
3 meters?
like a bomber or something like
All
that.
Right.
I'm sure they have larger craft, and I have seen a larger craft. I
mean, you're talking about a B-2 or a B-1 bomber or a SR-71 or what?
Well, I mean, it's like those stealth bombers. I mean, it's probably about what your average fighter jet would be like. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more comfortable inside. I mean, they have enough space to like snatch your ass, I suppose.
I mean, some people have said that they could. Some of them would be able to have as many as, I think, 6 people, 3 lined up opposite each other. They took a few.
The way it goes is, for one, I have a wire in the center of my head that I've, pretty clearly displayed that image. And
okay, we'll get on to we'll get on to that now. Okay, there's pictures.
I used to sell turtles.
All right.
A long time ago,
yeah.
But
and this picture to the left, I noticed you got a ring on, some kind of special ring as well.
Yeah, while I was out in Idaho, I joined the Freemasons.
And does that help
But
Has that helped you or not helped you?
well, I mean, I've I've studied a great deal of history and theology in my life, and you know, I'd say that there is you know, some sort of knowledge to be, you know, to seek after,
Yeah.
that that kind of, you know, made me want to do that. I did some concrete masonry when I was young, and I
You
had,
mean base information? I mean
well,
initial.
I did
Oh,
construction,
you're talking. Yeah.
like plastering and stuff, you know, when I was young, and my whole life in government institutions, being this lab animal, I've had the Bible, you know, shoved down my throat. I've like been a caged animal my whole life, and you know, having a Bible in a cage is usually, you know, the case. So you know, I've read it quite a bit, and a lot of other theology that, you know, kind of made it the Bible and what it is today. You know, I suppose if you get abducted and teleported your whole life, you know, trying to
That's my
seek the
lab.
answer. Yeah,
I mean,
like, you know, my whole life.
the next image is pretty serious. I mean, is this you? Is this you? Is this your MRI? Or where did you get this?
That's a CT scan in my head, and I
And
don't know if it'll.
the red arrows pointing to one of two vertical uh, things going into your deep into your head.
Wires draping down the side of my head that, you know, like I can't really see it too clear. It looks
Yeah.
too whited out right now,
All
but
right. Unfortunately,
uh,
can't really help you with the Skype camera. We are
right.
seeking better technology to do that, but
I mean, if it's gonna look like that,
no, no,
it's
it's
not
fine
gonna
on
look
screen. On
wired,
screen, yeah, it's fine.
but okay. Um, but I mean, you can see the
I'll
wires
see
that
if I can
drape down.
improve the lighting for you if you continue to describe that.
If you're familiar with the Conclear implant system, I'm gonna, you know, talk about this a little bit, because what you're seeing is like a modified version of Conclear technology that goes into my cochleas. It's not just on that side, but it's on the other side, and it drapes down into that ear. And the other electrode that goes up in the top, like it's like that on both sides, and they plug in, like they go into my brain emotional centers. There's like a strip along the top of the picture of my skull, and like that plugs into my speech. It plugs into my motor function. Um, if you get one on the top of my head, there's
Okay,
one photo.
I hope that's improved it for you. I'll move on to the next one. Is that okay? You continuing
It
with?
hasn't really improved. I'm just doing the best I can
Yeah,
to explain it,
it's
anyways,
very
because I know
difficult with these Skype cameras. If you get any with a lot of
that.
black behind it, it automatically corrects.
So the way it is the wires go on the sides like this, and then another one goes over the top, and then it runs over underneath my forehead, comes in to my eyes over my eyeballs, and then those two cords plug into my optical nerves. And you know, somewhere there's a government dude that's got my eyeballs on their laptop, and they're, you know, watching, like, you know, the Truman Show or something. Like, you know, that actually does show a little better. It's like so you can see there's the strip that goes across my head there on the left side, and then you can see, you know, and you can look in the DBS, deep brain stimulation technology. So you got like the lead wire that goes across the strip of my skull, and then the wires poured out into the top that one runs on the top there, and that plugs into the hole in the center of my head, and that drives down into the center of my brain, the part that is my memory. And part of mind control is I mean, wiping out your memory kind of like prevents you from saying or doing a lot of things. And it also prevents you from carrying out any kind of thought and keeping a thought in your head. Because if you're trying to do something and all of a sudden your memory swiped, you're just kind of like sitting there like, you're like, okay, I got up, I was doing something, I was going somewhere, but all of a sudden you're clueless as to why you got up and what you intended to do. And
Okay, we've got another one. Here. That's two very detailed ones. I hope you can see that better where you are.
right, and
You can see deep brain stimulation probes that haven't stopped electrocuting my brain once in 30 years, and the other one is the other
a few
one.
years
Yeah.
I made those like some years back. And
How did you get
so
those? Are these MRI scans?
yeah, that's a 2009 MRI scan. I was I would say that I had a car accident arranged that could have easily ended my life. And I had an accident arranged in '03, but I couldn't get the scan for that because, they said too much time had passed. But because I went back later when I was experiencing a lot of clicking noises in my head, and I was really, really feeling the system bad when I, tracked down like the medical place where I had that done
How
in
did you do
Arizona.
that?
Um, well, you just file for records requests is all.
And they can
And
get you, and you can get that. That's possible.
well, yeah,
I mean,
I
how
mean
did you
they
physically get
for
those
10 years.
MRIs?
It was in 2013, which so they told me that the 2003 one I couldn't get, but I could get that 2009 one, and the 2009 one showed that's I found all that stuff in my head, and that's when the mental health system started coming for me, trying to convince me that I was a psycho and destroy me with drugs and everything, and they did a pretty good job of that. And that's like an in-depth story of its own. But like if you wanted to throw that back up, like on the one on the left, you see look at my nose. My nose is crooked, and that's because they must have busted it to weave all this stuff into my head and whatnot. But or they probably had to knock me out sometime when they were trying to do this to me or something. I don't know, but the two, like you see the triangular formation. So you got the two plugs into my optical nerves there. Then you got one that you got the two of them that are like where they're at. I mean, one runs straight down in my memory. If you see that big center white one right there. So
Now, is
that
that
one,
that's on the right hand of the screen you're looking at?
like on the right side of the screen, you see
Yeah,
the big fat circle
in the
in
middle.
the middle there,
Yeah,
and
there's two
so
X's. There's
that
two slight X's beside it. Is that right?
I don't know what you mean by X's.
Well, it's very. I wish I could have the mouse on with this, but I can't have them. I could point out it with the mouse, but anyway, we're just laboring our limited technology here. So, on the right hand
And then
side, yeah.
well, I'll try to explain it, and then if you want to ask a question. But
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know like the one in the back, let's say like on the left, we'll jump over to like the second to last hole, white dot you see there. And these are all electrode wires, and that's just like a slice view of it that I made. But like the back one, I've been trying to study the brain, and I'm sure that one kind of probably relates to the way your brain sees in the back of your head. And then the very last one at the back is like where the power cord plugs in and connects, because the power cord runs down your neck into your shoulder. I've had it in both my shoulders. And on the right side of that picture, you can see there are electrodes, like there's the lead wire strip, and then they go up and into the head, and then they go straight down into the ears into like the conclear wire. And I need to talk more on that too. But these ones that you see, like the little hands, I made sure that point on the sides there, like
Yeah. Okay.
you
Yeah.
know the left and right on the back. On the right one, like I'm pretty sure those are the ones that affect my brain emotional center. And it's just the way that it feels in my head, and it causes me to like feel emotion in ways that are unnatural to feel. I mean, it's all about putting in false information. And can you cats cut it out? Um,
Yep.
they're playing tag around the house right now. Like they're just really excited. But
Well, that's good. Maybe they know something good's happening. They're telling people about this stuff.
well, they're hyper. All the lights, like the lights on, and if anytime the lights on, it's playtime for them. Um, but
Yes,
so
about
let's
it's
just
about
talk
6
about.
a.m. in the morning where you are. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost 7 now. But cochlear implants. The way those work is they attach a microphone speaker onto the outside of your head, and that's another one we'll get to. But for now, if we'll just talk
I
about
think we're coming up to one of the most horrendous. Yeah. This is why I'm not sure about. Let's see. There's another
if
one.
you'd like me to explain what they're doing to my head, putting in false information, making me hear voices through the cochlear wires, like it's a modified deep brain stimulation system that puts information into my head, false information, to look for brain responses. So basically a machine talks to itself in my head while playing like situational scenario movies of people doing this or talking this, saying this and that to each other, while causing emotional stimulations to see if that's how I feel about it. It's all about confusion and extracting information from my brain to create artificial intelligence algorithms for like talking desk speakers, Alexas, and whatnot, whenever it's not about all out mind control and forcing me to obey and do something, like, because it's in my speech, it makes me speak, it's in my motor function, like I'll just move, like, and it's it's very intense, and it's manhood since I
Um.
was a little
Yeah.
boy.
Shouldn't do that. Okay. This particular one I think is shocking. This really.
Well, that's just from the movie Source Code, and that was just like a symbolic representation as to how I feel, linked into this machine hive mind control grid, communications grid, mind control,
I mean,
Borg
when they actually
assimilation
do that,
nightmare.
the way they've got the back of the head like that, is that how it's actually done, or what? Does it take a part of your brain cover off, or what?
Well, that's just a movie called The Source Code that I happen to like post on my Facebook because I'm just feeling very much like something like that like, in a
In other words, how
delusional.
much of the movie is close to the truth?
Well, that movie was about time traveling and going into different people's bodies and possessing them and stuff like that. But I mean, it was just the picture of a dude with a bunch of wires sticking out of him, that was attached to a machine that I was expressing myself with. That's all that really was.
Well, I think
Uh,
we've got the picture that you were talking about implants in the ear. Is that right?
the and that was what I was trying to explain. And that's how it goes in. It drapes down the side of my forehead and enters into my cochlea just like that, except it's not connected to a microphone to help me hear as a deaf person. It's connected to a battery pulse generator that receives signal from the communications grid that causes me to hear either song fragmentations, laughter, screaming voices, arguments, conversations, debates, whatnot. I show a picture of like a cut on my head, and then, that's a slice mark into my Alcock's canal on the left. I mean, that's the space in between my nutsack and my asshole that's been sliced open so they can put in neuromodulation into my penis, my pudendal nerve, my rectal nerves. They also stab through my groin on the left and right side so they could put in their little scope tools, and it's just weaving wires in and out of my function. It's in my intestine, it's in my stomach, it's in my pancreas. Part of putting me in mental health was to give me drugs to cause type 2 diabetes. So the wire that they had stuck in my pancreas that I was trying to get out when they put me in there, could neuromodulate and just my whole digestive system, my kidneys, my rectal nerves, my pudendal nerves, my urethra, sphincter. I had this pitchfork stabbed into my prostate for the longest time, most of my life. And that was just something that would be targeted by energy. So when energy targeted that little pitchfork implant, it would vibrate, and that would, cause obvious problems with my, male reproductive system.
Okay, this is another one. Medtronic. These look like commercial devices. The one on the left.
Those are battery pulse generators that stimulate. That's what the wires connect to. Devices like that. I have
And those
those
are
in my
very small. I mean, what sort of size are those?
a little bigger than like a silver dollar. It's like a small little hockey puck, like, I mean, it's probably about, I don't know, maybe half the thickness of a hockey puck. And, I mean, I'm looking at one right now, the one that I took the picture of that on the table of. And,
So I mean, is that 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches, or what, or half an inch?
it's like half an inch thick. And, from top to bottom, it's like, let's see, 3.5 inches, and maybe like 3.5 inches across. I suppose they come, smaller, bigger, depending on how they're modified. The way I found them inside my body is they branch out. I mean, here's a good perception of how big it is right there. So they branch out. I mean, this right here could have a wire that comes off of it the way I've seen it inside me, and then it could have like a tiny little battery, like splicer thing that, will put the wire out in another direction or whatever, and then that'll go down into a different part of you and connect to a different one of these things. And, this could be dual ported, like, in this example, the wire would come out like that way out of the thing, but it could be dual ported and it could have wires coming out of both sides. I mean, my life is the development of these things, these neuromodulation technologies. I mean, before they were on the market, they were in my little childhood body, and there are ones in my body now, like in my pancreas, that haven't quite hit the market yet, that are still, just the future to be that isn't yet, because someone like me and my family had to die before they could calibrate all their electrical signals down and fine tune the stimulation algorithm patterns, and figure out how it is they're going to control and kill everyone. And that's
What
kind
do you
of a
think this
picture.
is leading to? I mean, what's the? Have you heard? Do you think it's leading to the Internet of Things, 5G, all that sort of stuff? These networks, gigahertz frequencies, communicating obviously with, not for us, they're communicating with
Obviously,
cyborgs.
I mean, the
Cyborgs.
the the internet was developed by the Department of Defense. I mean, the little history of the internet there, communications grids, cellular networks, satellites. I mean, they're all there. They're there to control, and so we've got all this grand old TV stuff, all this great stuff we can do with our phones and the internet to educate us, entertain us. And so we pay good money for them to teleport us to some government facility where they can stick this in you and call you a nutcase, say that, oh, that stuff's impossible, it's only theoretical, we're only doing some quantum teleportation of information right now, with the satellites, but we're not there yet. Like, everything we're capable of is theoretical science that we're supposedly not capable of. That's exactly how that goes into the center of my head there. And I just had like my memory erased from it right now as I'm talking about it. I lost my train of thought. If you're sitting right next to me right now, I could just like drape my hand across my head and you'd hear these wires creak and click in my head.
Are your cats actually picking up on that? Are your cats picking up on any energies? That's why they're behaving like that. No.
I think my cats are pretty much just living the best cat life they can live. They're not
They're
I
just
mean, I
having a good
suppose
time.
I've got electrodes in my eyeballs. Anything I look at,
Well, we'll
you
get to
know.
that. Why don't you describe what this looks like? A commercial slide that's actually somebody's made up.
I mean, if I look at you, I was just gonna say you could be targeted by some psychotronic energy waves. I mean, I
Just
would
from you looking at me on the Skype. Is that right?
from well, I mean, maybe not you, maybe the control grid itself would target you because you're online and they've got the coordinates of your position. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
it's that, but I mean, I am a GPS beacon. I got all these technologies on me inside my body. I mean, the cops might not be able to track my implant energy signature, but the communications grid in the military certainly does. And if I'm to sit here and look at someone, for say talking right in front of my face, could they get in the way of the frequency? Yeah, they could. Could they end up getting targeted and bombarded by energy because they're, standing in the way of the frequency wave that's going to my implants? I would say yes. If I just you know, turn on a YouTube video and, sit in it in a certain way. I can feel like the frequency wave that's, going to my tablet, you know, in my head. I mean, the same thing that's, got the news on the TV right now is being delivered to my head. The same thing, it's all coming out of the cell phone tower over there. It's going to my TV, it's going to my tablet, and it's going to my head and organs.
I mean, we've now
It's
got a
that
thing. We've got a
thing.
thing up there that looks like the Death Star, but it's on a
Oh,
neurological scale. That's from. Isn't
and
that from a? That's from a video demonstration from Microsoft. Is that right?
I found that online, and I snipped it and put it on there because I felt something as that in my brain, and that's going around my brain neurons, tightening and pulling on them and tearing them. That's what that is. It's part of a video that a nano machine technology has these little tentacle things that come out of it and wrap around your individual brain neurons so they can, map out the
I mean,
entire
this
human
isn't science
consciousness,
fiction. This is not
control
science
the
fiction. This is
no.
not imagined. Although that
This
may be
this
a
is
graphic
Harvard, this is
representation.
Oxford, this is MIT, this is funded by the Department of Defense, this is Bill Gates, Elon Musk, any billionaire tech company that's funded by the Department of Defense, to butcher, pretty much middle class and poor people. Certainly the Holocaust, as it always has, as it happened in Germany to the Jews, it happens to property owning people who are highly educated that, like me, was born with the college trust fund in a $700,000 debt free house in Southern California, 30, like, well, like probably like 15 minutes if you drove. But like, I took the bus last time I was there. I mean, not too far from Huntington Beach. I could have grown up on Huntington Beach, had a beautiful life in Southern California, Orange County, and went to UCLA. The not just anybody, particularly I blame it on the fact that I'm Italian, and in America that's about 2% of the population, and the law of the jungle says I'm the animal strayed from the herd that has to get eaten, and that's how I'd explain what's happened to me and my family. There's no
Well, you
Italian
mentioned you,
population that's gonna go fight for me like border wars and immigration. It's
well,
just
there
me
are
getting
people. There are
food out
people waking
there.
up. There are people fighting on this 5G front, but they don't know a lot about this sort of stuff. So could you sort of, you mentioned something about eye implants?
What I say about that is, a lot of people don't know it. They don't believe it. They don't want to know it. They don't want to believe it. And most of all, unless it happens to them or someone they love and care about, they don't care.
They can't add
And
up.
and,
They
and
don't
even
think it's
more
going to
than
happen to
not
them.
caring, they're happy to make it worse. There's the whole wounded animal thing, and what can I take from that person? He's helpless. A lot of people are that way. They'd rather take away the eyesore, not hear the cries for life, and, just call the cops. They'll take you off to the mental hospital, and no one ever has to see you again because you're jailed or put to death on drugs in a cage, and you're beaten crippled and forced to take those drugs till you're addicted to the drugs, and then those drugs cause health problems like diabetes or obesity or tremors or Parkinson's or stroke or any number of things that those drugs cause you to die from, and then you're dependent on drugs from what those drugs that they made you addicted to did to you, and you can't come off those drugs because then you start twitching even worse, and like it's some really bad stuff. Like, it's terrible.
Was there ever a reason why you were has anybody given you a reason why they've been doing this with you?
I was gonna have a future. They got to do it to somebody. You know, I came from a prominent, humongously large Italian family from the dawn of time. You know, from ancient history, I've always been this Italian family that has this traditional culture of doing well at life and having a dozen kids and, you know, going to college and having futures. And they got to do this to somebody. So why not the guy who stands out in the crowd that's not like anybody else? That nobody is going to go throw up any armies or protests about civil rights for. You know, I'm not black, I'm not Mexican, I'm just a random anomaly in this country. Nobody cares. Those are the wires that wrap over my head and go into my optical nerves. You were looking at some puncture marks where they stabbed up in the side of my gut there, and you know, they go in there with their little scopes and their little tools, and they just weave through you like if they was like sewing a scarf or something, you know, like knitting, you know, like butchering you up with all these wires plugged into your everything. That's the right side of my skull. You know, you can see some wires draping down the side of my head there. I mean, it's the same thing on the other side. They go into my ears on both sides. It's you know, the little power cord comes out of the back of your head there and runs down into your shoulder.
So how are these things interfaced? I mean, Elon Musk has got this. He's one of these.
Just like
he's one of the
cell
companies.
phone interface.
Yeah.
Just like we're talking right now on this Skype, you know, on the internet, online. I'm on a data plan. I'm walking around on a data plan. I've got unlimited data everywhere I go, all my implants.
It's pretty serious. This. Have you heard of other people? I mean, this is the first time I featured somebody with the same sort of technology. But I noticed that in this, since the last time I featured a certain individual, the implants there were. You've got seen to have a lot more of them, plus are much deeper in the brain as such.
Oh, I'm not the only one like me. I'm just someone who realizes what's been done to me. There's this other guy in Canada, I can't think of his name because my memory's so bad. He's got deep brain stimulation wires all into his head. He says it's the CIA, you know, the same old MK Ultra stuff that they was doing that's been released by the CIA in the reading room files that you can look up. You know, it's deep brain stimulation now. When it was MK Ultra, they was doing some drugs and shocking your head, you know, on the sides of the heads. Now they've furthered that research and technology into neuromodulation systems that they can stuff into your head and nervous system and just control you by that.
Being in neuromodulation,
you have to be in a psych ward to have your head electrocuted. You know, they just wire up your brain, and anywhere you're at, whatever you're trying to do, and you just get whacked by a wave of microwave energy in the side of your head, and you just like you just.
I mean, that's 5G. That's 5G's doing that.
Well, 5G is just making it worse. I mean, 5G is just spreading the power of the control grid. I mean, people are wrapping themselves up in shielding materials now. They're trying to, like, build Faraday cages. I mean, this is really expensive stuff. I can't afford to build no Faraday cage. They got me, like, blocked off on every avenue I have to have any.
Well, there is a gentleman called Tim Rifa in England, and he actually took ordinary the metal from biscuit tins, or grocery tins, just thin sheets of metal, and just layered it like scales all along the wall, roof, and everything, and that seemed to
Well,
work.
not everything will work. I mean, you can't wrap no tinfoil on your head. I mean, that's just
Yeah,
not
well,
going
that's
to
the
work.
point that comes through your
Yeah.
eyes and your mouth. The whole rest of it is just lunacy.
But there are some highly reflective metals like silver, copper, and nickel that are theoretically supposed to, block that out. I mean, they make Faraday cages out of such materials, but I mean, just to buy a small little strip of sheet metal, I mean, you'll spend $30 on maybe like couple of feet or whatever. I mean, you can spend a lot of money trying to build a Faraday cage.
I think
Or
if you
I'd be
get
doing it. I have it
yeah.
built into my walls right now. I'd be
Okay,
inside.
this is another thing. Now the picture's a little bit over bright. There is a fairly on the very bottom of the picture. There's a large white node, and then
Right.
up
The
near
power cord.
the power cord.
This is where the power cable goes into the back of my head, and it branches off in 3 directions over the top and across the 2 sides of my head, and all the electrodes go into all the places that they've targeted to put them in, and
And what about your
power cord
eyes?
runs down my neck into my shoulder, into the battery pulse stimulator that is constantly receiving signal in and out.
Okay, I think that's a zigzag slice scar, and then you've got those a slightly darker picture. I think you've seen that picture before, but you've got the very clear 1, 2,
Well,
3, the
when
triangular
they're
group.
sitting there putting all the wires in the different directions in your head, they got to, get in there. They cut in on the sides. They had to peel open my head on the sides and make a cut back there. Just like they, had to slice my little skin there and drill a little hole and then stick that metal freaking needle into my head and turkey baster the RFID chip in my frontal lobe. I don't know if you pulled that picture off, but like there's an RFID chip
Well,
in my
let's just see.
That's what I was pointing to in that picture where you commented on my ring.
Is it in that one? No.
Nah.
You've got the 1974 V2K.
That's a concept you'll see, anytime that you're talking about targeted individuals. It's just how that energy is beamed to your brain.
What's that? What's that thing? It's like a little devil?
Well, no, that's just my head. That's an image. I accidentally, mostly of these pictures were pictures on my cell phone uploads. There were clearer ones that I didn't get to you because you were a little, irritated. But, I got all this stuff
No,
in my
unfortunately, a lot of those, about 8 of them, did not come through.
Yeah.
Attachment didn't make it.
Well, I can always try to, send you a few more pictures. I don't know, maybe insert them in later, but there's that chip in my forehead. That's where it all started. Some people are lucky enough just to get like little RFID tags.
Well, if we assume if we assume at this time that those pictures are wonderful.
Yeah.
Isn't she lovely? He or she?
He. This is Mr. Vendettas. And that's my boy cat, and I got a little black cat right there, girl cat. Just called her Hershey. I found her playing in the window after she was born. There are cats that are kind of wild. I bought the old cat lady's house, and I bought a whole bunch of Turkish van water cats and some Angora cats, and most of them have been killed by my neighbors next door, but some of them are still around. And so
Oh,
I got him there. I've had him for a year. Oh,
there's a
those are
33rd
some
level one there, I think.
photos. That would be a Scottish Rite Mason ornamental dress and apron. Um, and the other one just kind of represents some Masonic symbols of pillars. I don't want to get like too much into talking about like a documentary on Freemasonry or nothing like that right now.
But that was just really to indicate that you did join the Masons and the
Well,
Brotherhood.
I did join the Masons, and there's this guy that wants to sell me every kind of ornamental Mason memorabilia on Facebook. That he's put all these pictures in my groups and on my Facebooks and stuff. So like, if I ever did do something like that and I wanted to buy that stuff, then I got a guy that wants to sell it to me, I suppose. That's all that's about.
There's another picture here which has got a skull with, is that an ET in behind? Why did you
I
send that
think
one?
that's from a Tool album or something, like the artist of Tool. But to me, it was just like, you know, when I was a child, I was getting stabbed in my head, like, so I just kind of saw that picture and, put it there, like, just art. Nothing, not really to say about it other than some art that I felt
Okay,
intrigued by.
I've got another one here of optical implants,
Uh,
optical nerve electrode that broadcast my vision back to the government via the wireless network. Could you explain that? Because I think we've had one or two of that sort of people here. Synthetic. Do they use your natural eyes, or are your eyes modified?
well, there was nothing wrong with my eyes until they stuck wires in them. I'd say there's let's take the movie The Truman Show. The very last scene, Truman, before he exits, he says, "There was never a camera in my head." Like, excuse me, well, there is one in mine. There's two wires that run over my eyes into my optical nerves. They probably.
Did you send me
Oh,
that? I'm just maybe we can look.
well, I think I did. I mean, I definitely discussed it, and that's a picture of it. Those white spots right there. There's another picture of it from the side where you can see the electrode, um, the head of the electrode into my optical nerve. There's that other picture we went over where I pointed to. That's the stimulator in my shoulder. You can see the lump. I kind of like graphed where you can see like the cords, and they, kind of go
Is that
out
near the
both ways. One runs
which of
down,
the two
one runs.
yellow arrows?
Oh, I put the two yellow arrows right there because, you see the lump. That's like the top of the stimulator thingamajigger. Like, you can put that up. Here's the top of the stimulator thing, and that one appeared to be two ported. One was going down into my lower body, and one was going up. Like, I mean, that was the one that went up. That was when it was in my right shoulder. Currently, it's in my left shoulder. But there's a
Any
wire
reason
that went
for a
down.
difference in shoulders?
Well, wherever they want to stab one in you. I mean, my whole life they were stabbing it in my right shoulder, and I got that tattoo on the back of my head. That's in the center of my head. That electrode. That's the one that goes in my memory, and I got a tattoo on the back of my head, and I shredded up the cords. It was this big tattoo of wires in the back of my head that I'm trying to like claw off the back of my head, and that
Do you want to talk
shredded
about
up.
this now? Because I think we went past it quite quickly.
I did talk about
All
it
right.
some. If you have questions about it, the
Oh, the left of the
obvious,
groin. Yes. Okay.
well, they implant them into like your pelvis, like these little things are like into my pelvis, and then they go like back, and I know they're wrapped around my rectal nerves. I can feel them. I've seen them in a picture. Hey, Vendetta, Vendetta, please stop trying to like make a mess and pull that down.
Does she want to get out? Does he want to get
Oh,
out?
I can't let them go outside at all. Yeah, they would love to go outside and play, but then my neighbors would kill them. So they've never been outside. But he sees a plastic bag, on the edge of the table. He's trying to like pull the bag on the floor, and
Well,
because I told him something, he's whining. He's like, "But I want to pull this on the floor." But I mean, they go into my rectal nerves. They messed my prostate. They're into my pudendal nerves, and like that one is like on the top was like it's right up in there, like in my urethra sphincter, and it like pumps and contracts my urethra. Like, I mean, it's like this experiment that's always like trying to like rate my nervous system, male reproductive, waste management functions, and like force me to pee, force me to shit, force me to ejaculate,
is that
or
is that for the purpose of some kind of cyborg control?
you know,
I mean,
for
to
the
get you
purpose
to
of
eat
making
and
sure that I can't, like be the man and you know, knock it out and have like a relationship of my choosing is for sure. I mean, like everything's meant to keep me poor in some ghetto where I'm like some anomaly where everyone views me like some white pork chop that is the problem for everything bad that's ever happened to their race or something. So like if I have money or somehow to like get up out of this crummy place that I can't live nowhere else because all the injuries to my body and good name and finances and everything that they do to contain you in an area, like, part of the mind control program is like, what I'm supposed to accept for a life. Like, I can't be the man who went to college, had a family, found some nice college co-ed after living some American Pie life, and go live happily ever after and have a family with a woman that's like equally yoked to me, like compatible. Like I'm supposed to like breed into some mongrel thing. I'm supposed to be bred. I'm not supposed to just like, be in a healthy environment where I can live and meet a healthy, educated, intelligent woman who happens to like me, that I like back, sort of thing. It's like, so they can control who you have sex with and how you breed. I promise you it's some eugenics kind of selective breeding thing where you don't just live your life free. You can be like paired with some poor immigrant or something like that you have no
well,
business in relationship with at all.
I
That's
think
not
I think
comparable to you.
it's worth just drawing to a close, I think, at the moment. If you send on that,
If you want me to be honest with you and tell you how it
yeah,
is,
tell
that's
me as
how
it
it is.
is.
Yeah, it's like my life was supposed to be one thing. I fought my whole life to try to make it that over and over again, and they've tried to force it to be the most horrible, awful crime it could be. So, like, they try to make you attracted to people that you're not attracted to. They try to make you have sex with people you don't like, that you don't have no business trying to have some sexual relationship or anything at all with. And they try to make you think that you're gay, or they you know just try to keep you from being able to function at all, in case you do get money, in case you find some decent woman that likes you, even though you might not have a gazillion dollars. Then your dick's on a wire, and if your dick's out on a wire, you can't fucking be the man, and that's the way that is.
There is
And
a series of slogans used. There's some slogans used during World War II, and this is one of them. Freedom is in peril. Defend it with all your might.
yeah.
So I think that's something that's happening right now.
Well, eugenics is about selective breeding, and they want people to have interracial relationships that end in divorce, that fail, and then you can just pay child support for a kid that hates you, doesn't respect his ancestors, and just wants to sing the rainbow minority immigration song. And you can be a lab animal, crippled, mangled, and retarded from medical experiments, that has to go to prison for a kid that hates you that you can't pay for. And that's like what they want people's lives to be. I don't feel like I was meant to exist. I feel like my life was forced into existence by the same things that I have experienced in my life being done to me. I'm pretty sure my father was forced to feel for my mother. I probably should not have been born, but because things like this happen, here I am, Chris Bertolino, the lab animal freak that has never been allowed to have enough money to be the man I need to be, to love the woman I want to love, or the house and the dick to use to love them.
Okay, I think we'll call it a day on that one.
Pretty good about the whole why they wire a man stuff.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's data that's going to be used to make the sex robots boyfriends and girlfriends eventually. And, some 80-year-old dude can have his wiener cyborg style, and maybe one day have relationships when he's 80, 90 years old or whatever. God knows what they're going to do with the extracted data that they collect from this. But I mean, it's all about control, and it's all about extracting biomedical data for something. But it's also largely about controlling people and taking their personal freedoms from the inside out. It's taking your rights as a human being right out of your bodily and mental functions, keeping you from living productively to your full potential, and lowering you down as a human being into something less than what you were intended to be than what your ancestors worked and lived and died to make you, and to overcome anything that you could have possibly did, even on your own in some ugly place where all there is death and depravity. Time after time, I have crawled out of this hole just to crippled physically, mentally, financially, and in my good name, shoved even further into a bigger hole. So, like, I spent my whole life unable to live anywhere but a motel, unable to do anything for a living that's not self-employed, because anything else they destroy, they can steal, they can stop, they can prevent, they can put a mark on your name so you never even get to do it. And things swipe my memories.
Only in the culture.
Are there people living on other planets right now, or other galaxies?
Affirmative.
Could you tell us which one?
All.